good fish too. Oh, a little better, yeah. And there we have it, folks. A little Texas rigged. There we go. Not a big fish, but a normal Alamo Lake bass. Let me tell you something, folks. We're here almost summer and it's getting close. And these fish, this is the time of year where you get them early. And we got out here a little bit late, but the good news is they want to hit a Texas rig today. Texas rig, I've got it hooked up my flipping stick so I can flip around a little bit. I was going to flip these trees, but once I get to these little brush piles, I like to just throw it out there and drag it in. But all it is, I got a little bobber stop here, okay? Throwing it on 17-pound test line on a heavy action rod. 17-pound test line, 3/8 ounce tungsten weight, and then I'm throwing a 3/0 offset shank, owner hook, and then of course we're using the Weed Pig by Arizona Custom Baits. It's a little watermelon candy is what that is. And that little dude gets it done. I downsized just to be sure I'd get bit. I wasn't quite sure what these fish would be doing. So I'm making some casts, I'm flipping out there. We're here around 11 o'clock. So we're gonna take a peek, see what these fish are doing, and see if we can't go around and catch a few more of these fish. Alamo Lake's a lot of fun to fish. Got a lot of great campsites to be at, or that you can come to. You can get away from a lot of the pleasure boaters out here because it seems like there's a lot of just fishermen, people that love to come fish this lake, and the fishing's good, normally. Not always, but normally it's pretty good. And they got some good fish in here. I've seen where it's taken 18 pounds to win a tournament on this lake, so for 5 fish. So there's some good fish in here to boot. But we're gonna go around and see what it's gonna take us to catch a few fish. And first thing I like to start out with when I see all this rock on the bank like this is maybe try in the afternoon. I don't see a lot of action going on. I'll try a little Texas rig. Now we're up here in the trees, obviously, so I won't mind flipping a little bit inside these trees to see if I can't get something as well. And this is the time of day where we really want to watch for shade. You know, maybe toss in a little pocket of shade and catch some fish out of there. But this may not be the only thing that's going, but we're gonna try it for just a little while and see if we can't catch some fish right here at Alamo Lake. But I'll do what I gotta do. Oh yeah. Yeah. Get in here, fish. Oh my goodness. Little tree bass. Flipped right by that tree and just let it drop. It's real deep there. And they'll suspend off those trees, and as it's falling, that little tail on that dude, they'll grab it and run out with it. It makes me think sometimes I'm wondering if I wouldn't be better off with something weightless, but on the other hand, you want it weighted so you can flip into some of the shallower stuff too. So I could have a Senko on the deck, but we'll keep flipping around with this. I'll tell you something else that's really cool about this kind of fishing is a lot of times even swimming it in. This Weed Pig with the tails that it has on it, you know, acts like little fins and the fish hit it on its way up. I've caught a couple fish doing that. So, you know, you can throw it out there, let it fall to the bottom, and I always say feed it line, especially when you're deep, feed it some line. Just watch your line to pop. If you don't get nothing, then hop it a few times. You know, the whole purpose of doing this is to get as close to the base of the tree as you can, and then reel it up and go to the next one. But when you're fishing 13 foot of water out here too, and you know they're suspended off of it, you can still catch them, but you got to really be a line watcher as your line's going down, because they'll take it and start swimming off with it. Got him. He came back and got it. I watched him come over the limb and get it. I watched you. You know what's so funny, folks, is if you really have a good pair of polarized sunglasses on, you can see some of those fish. And a lot of times, what had happened was I pulled it over a tree limb and I watched the fish dart out and then go the other way, and as my bait fell over the other way, he turned around and came back and got it. There you go, buddy. If you can watch it, you know, you pull it right over the limb and all of a sudden it falls right back down and thunk, he'll come back and get it. But all I'm seeing is their black tail go after it, but he was there. He went after it. You know, a lot of these fish love to suspend in these trees, but they'll also, and you have to keep going back and forth, back and forth. You know, that's like 13 foot of water. Up here's what, 10, 8 foot of water, somewhere in there. So, you know, you got to keep moving back and forth, but I'll tell you what, we're going to stick a good one eventually. It's got to happen. It's too good. It's too good. That wee pig's catching them. Good thing I got a lot of them. This watermelon candy, you know, I was just looking at a bluegill in the water and it looks exactly, that thing is the exact same color as those bluegill that are running around in there, because I swam it up next to it and saw it. So that's really cool. You know, one thing that's really important too that I think I need to make sure I stress is that you always put that bobber stop underneath that tungsten weight. Now, you know, I got one on top, there's one on the bottom. The reason why I do that is so that tungsten weight has no give, and it'll actually pound on that knot, and especially if you get caught up or something like that and pull extra hard, that tungsten could cut your knot. So I kind of like having that little rubber stop right there to keep that tungsten from pounding on your knot. The other thing is when you're looking for a hook for the size of your bait, always match it up. You know, this is a little 3/0 owner offset shank hook that I'm throwing. You don't want to throw a 5/0 hook, even if you are flipping in there, if you're throwing a little bit smaller bait. Match your bait up to your hook. Now, this particular bait is small enough that 3/0 hook goes right in the belly of it and leaves just the tail out there. So you can see where that's at. That's perfect. Okay. Any farther, any longer hook would hurt you. So the 3/0's perfect. And what I like to do is bring the hook through, make sure it's straight, and then skin the bait, what they call skinning the bait. So your hook's penetrated through the plastic, you've already done that. That way you've already made the channel, so when you set the hook doesn't have to try to penetrate the plastic and the mouth of the fish. And then what I'll do is I'll just take the tip of the plastic and just bring it over the tip of the bait. Skinning the bait, and there you go. Make it as straight as possible and you're good to go. Oh, there he is, in that bush. A good one too. I gotta get him out. He's got me, there you go. Ah! He tried to get me in that bush, but I got ya. Ah! He tied me up in that bush right there. Hit it as I was just starting to pull it up. You know, just drag it up real slow over those limbs, and a lot of times those bass will try to get you right there, man. That's the one thing about doing this kind of fishing that you have to remember, is that when you get down into that stuff, and you're trying to get down into that stuff, when you feel the tree limb, a lot of times you can just kind of let your bait fall back down so you don't snag it up in there. You know, they see those tails come up, and then as it falls back down, they just zap it on the way down, and that's what he did. He got me right in that big bush right there. And I didn't think I was gonna get him out. That's where that 17-pound test line comes in handy, you know, fluorocarbon line. Check your line. But yeah, that's so you can get them out of there. A lot of guys will throw 20 in there too. You know, if you're on some real big giants. Oh! There's one right there. Let it fall right there by the bush. One thing you can almost be guaranteed of, at least it seems like most of the flipping fish that you get, or the pitching fish, whatever you want to call it, those fish there, that's a good little Alamo Lake bass, are at least a little bit better than the smaller ones. You'd probably get a lot of them on the drop shot, you know. Not that you can't get big ones and stuff on the drop shot. I've caught a ton of them, but it seems like when you throw a little bit bigger bait, you get a little bit bigger fish. Got him. Get in here. Ah. One of these days I'm gonna set the hook on a big old 5-pounder in there. Look at I'm throwing it in the stuff, man, let me tell you. You know, something to think about too when you're out here fishing is, you know, a lot of folks are like, oh, what to do. You know, believe this or not, today we're dealing with a high pressure, no wind, some of the worst fishing conditions as far as fish biting really good there are. And when you have high pressure, it really sets some fish down. So here's the deal. When you get into a position like that, you might have been catching them on a cloudy day or, you know, when the pressure was low on spinnerbaits and all kinds of stuff. But when it gets tough, you can get in here and flip in these trees. These fish will get tighter to the cover. The sun's high. There's no wind. They're gonna get up there tight and they're gonna be right inside this stuff. That's why this technique is so good. The other technique that I would suggest that would be really good in there would be, say, a Cinco or something. If they're suspended in there, which they are, a Cinco would work good in there too. But this is working for us today. But make no mistake, a Cinco would work in this stuff too. You just let it flutter down and just let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. But you gotta be close to the bush. I'm noticing today, if I miss the bush or if I'm not right in the stuff and you're seeing me trying to get them out of that bush, then they're not around it, they're in it. So you gotta get in it, get to their home and get them out of there. It's really important to understand one thing, especially if you look around us right now and see what's going on. Whoo, it's getting hot. About time to get out of here. But I can tell you this much. When you're pitching and flipping, you don't want to try to cast so far where you're so far away from the stuff that you're doing. So in other words, say we want to fish this brush pile here. You know, you want to pitch in or flip a little bit close to you, and you don't want to be too far from your line. If you're flipping way out there to try to hit that bush way out there, wait till you get a little closer. You know what I mean? Don't flip out there. Flip to this tree first and then get in a little closer. Always think about setting yourself up for positioning yourself to make sure that you can get that fish to the boat when you do get hooked. That fish will stay there, you know, until you get the boat a little closer. You don't need to go to that one yet until you get to this one. So take your time, do it right, flip close, put your trolling motor on low, and don't try to hit the trolling motor too much or hit the wood with it at all if you can. And odds are you're gonna catch more fish. Stay stealthy, don't bang stuff in the boat, and you should be able to catch these fish up here, up shallow, and that's how they do it. You know, you don't want to be putting the trolling motor on high trying to book it down here and trying to hit every bush in the next, you know, say you got 5 minutes, you want to try to hit 50 bushes, you do something else. You know, you need to take your time and flip to these things and move on to the next one, and always put yourself in position to catch that fish, and you'll get him to the boat. Too much brush here and stuff to try to bring one from 50 yards over that way over all this stuff, because if you do hook into a big 4 or 5 pounder, odds are he'd get you wrapped up into some of the stuff and break you off. And there you go, buddy. You know, folks, for my tip of the week, one thing really important to remember is when you start seeing the dragonflies coming out, and every so often deep in the trees or along the side, you see fish coming up after those. A lot of people think topwater is done in the afternoon. It could only be getting started sometimes in the afternoon. So don't be afraid to pull up your topwater and try it, especially when you have calm waters like this. Now, what I mean by topwater, you can throw your Ricos, your poppers, stuff like that. You know, I love the Rio Rico or the regular Rico, things like this. Throw it out there, let it sit, pop it. The fishing's slow, but yet they're still going after those dragonflies. And if you catch a fish in the right mood, man, they come right up and just bash this thing. It's insane, and it looks like a little dragonfly. So don't be afraid to try it in the middle of the afternoon. You might be surprised at what you catch. I'm not gonna miss a tree, that's for sure. Oop. I got one. I threw it right in there. I got my rod tip all hung up in that bush right there. And he smacked it on, I was jiggling it, trying to get it out of there, and he smacked my bait. Dude, hey, you know, anything can happen. You know, I always tell people I'll take luck over skill any day, baby. I'm like, I can't believe that. Oh, I'm sitting there trying to get my rod out of the bush and the fish hits my bait. Oh my goodness. One thing that's a must for trailering your boat is a DD26 fishing product called a Mean Mount Transom Saver. This little dude right here is pretty awesome. It's spring loaded and it's bulletproof, folks. This thing is really nice. What I like to do is just bring it down here, hook it up. It's made specifically for my Mercury motor. I bring it up, bring your motor down, and it sets right there. And I'll tell you what, it keeps the motor very solid right there for the whole time. Now, the other thing that's very important that DD26 Fishing's come out with, one thing about trailering your boat that's very important is your steering mechanism. So what they've come up with is actually steering lock system. It's really awesome. You can go to DD26 Fishing products. The steering locking system actually goes right over your steering mechanism right here on both sides. What's really nice about that is you don't want your motor to sway left or right while you're trailering it, because when you start beating the piston up sideways, with your motor being sideways, it starts beating on that piston, you can actually get some gasket leaks. Very important to keep that motor solid where it's not gonna move. And I'll tell you what, those two products right there from DD26 Fishing is a must. I'll tell you what, when you're trailering, it's very important to be sure before you even put your trailer on the hitch that you make sure that the nut on your ball is tight, because if you don't, it's very possible to lose this whole mechanism right here and lose your trailer. They do have the safety chains on, but trust me, we get so used to just traveling and trailering our boats all the time without checking that to make sure it's tight. Always be sure you double check to be sure that that ball is tight, because if it's not, sometimes your trailer will come right off and your boat will be right alongside your vehicle. Very important to check that. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing you learn about summertime fishing is get out early and get off by noon. It's 1 o'clock. We got out here a little late today, but still had a lot of fun. You can catch some big fish out here. We've dealt with the high pressure, tough fishing conditions, but you know, they're close to the wood, doing a little flipping. That's where they're supposed to be. You got to give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And try that weed pig from Arizona Custom Baits. You're going to be surprised at how well it does for you, man. It does a great job. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.